A billionaire father was about to drink the coffee prepared by his new wife, but when the twins screamed that it was poisoned, he is shocked to discover the truth. The morning sun filtered through the massive windows of the Parker mansion, illuminating the anxious face of William Parker. The man who had built a real estate empire from scratch, whose name was synonymous with success and power, now felt like a rookie in his own game. His hands, calloused from years of holding blueprints and negotiating multi-million-dollar contracts, now trembled slightly as he adjusted his silk tie. "It's time," he murmured to his reflection in the mirror. Beside him, Sarah, his new wife, placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. At 32, she was the personification of grace and beauty, her navy blue dress hugging each curve perfectly. "It's going to be okay, honey," she whispered, her voice a mix of confidence and something else. "Anxiety, perhaps." William nodded, trying to believe her words. But how do you explain to two 5-year-old girls that their mother, who passed away only 2 years ago, was being replaced? Downstairs, Emma and Olivia Parker were playing in the living room, unaware of the storm about to hit their little world. Identical in appearance, with golden curls framing cherubic faces, the twins were the beating heart of the Parker mansion. Elizabeth, the 60-year-old housekeeper who had cared for the girls since birth, watched them with a vigilant eye. Her gaze, framed by worry lines, alternated between the children and the staircase, awaiting the inevitable descent. The sound of footsteps made the twins look up, their blue eyes wide with expectation. "Daddy!" they shouted in unison, running toward the stairs. William came down, his tense smile betraying his nerves. "Hi, princesses," he said, bending down to hug them. "I have someone very special to introduce to you." It was then that Sarah appeared at the top of the stairs, her slender figure framed by the sunlight streaming through the skylight. The twins, still in their father's arms, suddenly fell silent. "Emma, Olivia," William began, his voice trembling slightly. "This is Sarah, our new wife and mother." The silence that followed was deafening. Elizabeth, watching closely, noticed how the twins' small bodies tensed as if hit by an electric shock. Sarah descended the stairs, her radiant smile contrasting with the palpable tension in the air. "Hello, girls," she said softly, crouching to their level. "I'm so happy to finally meet you." Olivia was the first to react. Abruptly, she pulled away, dragging Emma with her. "You're not our mom," she cried, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "Sweetheart." William tried to calm her, but Emma interrupted him. "We don't want her here," the usually calm Emma burst out, her voice trembling with emotion. "Make her go away, Daddy." Sarah stepped back, shock and hurt evident on her face. William, torn between his new wife and his daughters, looked lost. It was Elizabeth who intervened, moving quickly to embrace the twins. "Come on, girls," she murmured gently. "How about we go to the kitchen and make those special cookies you love so much?" As Elizabeth guided the sobbing children away, William turned to Sarah, his expression a mix of guilt and frustration. I'm sorry. They just need time." Sarah forced a smile, but her eyes betrayed her disappointment. "Of course, I understand. It's a lot of change for them." However, while William was busy comforting Sarah, he failed to notice the calculating glint that briefly appeared in her eyes, or how her fingers curled into a fist, nails digging into her palm. In the kitchen, Elizabeth mixed the cookie dough mechanically, her thoughts miles away. She watched the twins, now quiet and downcast, sitting at the kitchen table. "Beth," Emma called softly, her voice choked with emotion. "Why did Daddy bring her?" Elizabeth sighed, setting the bowl aside and sitting with the girls. "Sometimes, sweetheart, adults, well, they need companionship, eh? Your father loved your mother very much, but we're his companions," Olivia protested, her eyes flashing with indignation. "It's different, my love," Elizabeth tried to explain, but the words felt hollow even to her. Outside the kitchen, William and Sarah spoke in hushed voices, their words tense. "Maybe I should leave for a few days," Sarah suggested, her voice trembling slightly. "Give the girls time to get used to the idea." William shook his head vehemently. "No, you're my wife now. This is your home. They'll adapt." But as he spoke, William couldn't help feeling he was trying to convince himself more than Sarah. As the day wore on, tension in the Parker mansion grew. The twins refused to leave the kitchen, clinging to Elizabeth like a lifeline in a turbulent sea. Sarah wandered the corridors, her footsteps echoing through the vast house that still didn't feel like hers. And William, the man who had faced ruthless boardrooms and negotiated billion-dollar deals, found himself utterly powerless in the face of uniting his fragmented family. That night, after the twins finally fell asleep, exhausted by the emotional turmoil of the day, William found himself alone in his office, an untouched glass of whiskey in front of him. "Sir?" Elizabeth's gentle voice pulled him from his dark thoughts. "Beth," he sighed, running a hand over his tired face. "How are the girls?" "Asleep, finally," she replied, her voice laden with concern. "Sir..." "William, I know it's not my place to say this, but..." "Go on, Beth," William encouraged her. "You're practically family." Elizabeth hesitated for a moment before continuing. "The girls need time, and maybe Mrs. Parker does too. There's something about her that worries me." William raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I can't explain," Elizabeth admitted. "It's just a feeling. Like she's playing a role." William was silent for a long moment, contemplating Elizabeth's words. Finally, he nodded. "Thank you, Beth. I'll think about it." When Elizabeth left, William remained in his office, eyes fixed on the photo of his late wife on the desk. "What have I done?" he murmured to himself. In the master bedroom, Sarah stood by the window, her reflection overlapping the nighttime city view. Her face, once a mask of sweetness and understanding, now showed a cold determination. "Phase 1 complete," she whispered to herself, an enigmatic smile playing on her lips. "Now the real work begins." And so, as night fell over the Parker mansion, the foundations of an already fragile family began to tremble even more, threatening to collapse under the weight of secrets, lies, and a long-planned revenge. Dawn at the Parker mansion brought with it a palpable tension that seemed to permeate every room of the luxurious home. William woke before his alarm, his sleep troubled by the family situation and the pressure of an upcoming bid that could redefine the future of Parker construction. Beside him, Sarah slept peacefully, her serene face a stark contrast to the storm of emotions raging through the house. William watched her for a moment, wondering if he had made a mistake by introducing a new wife so quickly into his daughters' lives. Sighing heavily, he got up and headed to the closet, swapping his pajamas for one of his impeccable Armani suits. Today would be a crucial day for the company, and he couldn't afford to let domestic problems affect his professional performance. Downstairs, the sound of childish laughter echoed through the kitchen. William followed the noise, finding Emma and Olivia seated at the table, devouring pancakes drenched in maple syrup, while Elizabeth watched affectionately over their breakfast. "Good morning, princesses," William greeted, leaning down to kiss the tops of the twins' heads. The girls responded with bright smiles, but their eyes soon turned to the kitchen entrance, as if expecting or dreading someone's arrival. As if on cue, Sarah appeared, radiant in a light summer dress. "Good morning, family," she exclaimed, her voice brimming with slightly forced enthusiasm. The effect was immediate. The twins' smiles vanished, replaced by expressions of distrust. Emma pushed her plate away while Olivia mumbled something inaudible, slumping in her chair. "Girls," William began, his tone a mix of warning and plea, "let's say good morning to Sarah." A tense silence followed, broken only by the clinking of utensils as Elizabeth began gathering dishes, casting worried glances between William and the children. Sarah, apparently unfazed, helped herself to coffee. "Don't worry, honey," she said, placing a hand on William's arm. "They just need time." William nodded, grateful for Sarah's understanding, but he couldn't ignore the disgusted look that crossed Olivia's face upon seeing the display of affection. "Beth," he called, turning to the housekeeper, "could you take the girls to get dressed? I have an important meeting today and need to focus." Elizabeth nodded, gently guiding the twins out of the kitchen. As they passed Sarah, both girls avoided her, as if her mere touch could burn them. Left alone with Sarah, William felt his shoulders relax slightly. I'm sorry about that, he murmured. Oh, they'll get used to it. Eventually, Sarah smiled. But there was something in her eyes that didn't match her look of understanding. Of course they will, dear. Now, tell me about this important meeting. Is it about that big bid you mentioned? William raised an eyebrow, surprised by Sarah's sudden interest. Yes, it is. City Hall is opening a tender for a new commercial complex downtown. If we win it, it'll be Parker Construction's biggest project yet. Sarah's eyes gleamed with a previously unnoticed intensity. Fascinating. And how are your chances? Good, I believe, William replied, checking his watch. But competition is fierce. Stellar Developments is in the running, and they have strong political connections. Sarah leaned in, her coffee cup forgotten. What if you needed an extra boost? Some insider at City Hall who could lend a hand? William frowned, taken aback by the suggestion. Sarah, we don't operate like that. Parker Construction has always played by the rules. Of course, Sarah quickly backtracked, an enigmatic smile dancing on her lips. I was just curious about how the big business world works. Before William could respond, the sound of something shattering echoed from the hallway, followed by high-pitched screams. He jumped to his feet, racing toward the noise, Sarah close behind. In the living room, they found an expensive vase shattered on the floor. Emma and Olivia stood by the shards, tears streaming down their faces as Elizabeth tried to calm them. What happened here? William demanded, his voice harsher than intended. Cass, it was an accident, Elizabeth began, but Olivia cut her off. It's her fault, the girl shouted, pointing at Sarah. She tried to hug us and we don't want her here, Emma finished, sobbing. We want our real mom. William felt as if he'd been punched in the stomach. He knelt, pulling the twins into a tight embrace. I know it's hard, my princesses, but Sarah is here to stay. She's not trying to replace Mom, she just wants to be our friend. Sarah stepped forward, her face a mask of concern. Girls, I'm so sorry if I scared you. I never meant... No, Olivia shouted, burying her face in her father's chest. Make her go away, Daddy. Please. William shot an apologetic glance at Sarah, who backed away, hurt evident in her eyes. Beth, could you take the girls upstairs? I think we all need some time to calm down. As Elizabeth guided the twins out of the room, William turned to Sarah, exasperated. I'm really sorry about this. They just need time. Sarah nodded. Wiping away a tear William wasn't sure was genuine. I understand. Maybe I should go away for a few days. Give everyone some space. For a moment, William considered the offer. It would certainly be easier. But the idea of giving in to the twins' demands, of letting them dictate the terms of his personal life, deeply bothered him. No, he said firmly. This is your home now, Sarah. We'll get through this together. Sarah smiled, leaning in to kiss him gently. You're an incredible man, William Parker. Now go to your meeting. Show them why you're the best at what you do. As William left, Sarah stayed behind in the living room, her eyes fixed on the shards of the shattered vase. Slowly, a calculating smile formed on her lips. Oh, William, she murmured to herself, you have no idea what's coming. At Parker Construction's office, William found himself torn between blueprints for the new project and thoughts about the situation at home. The meeting with the bidding committee was about to begin, and he needed to be focused. Mr. Parker, his assistant called from the door. They're ready for you. William nodded, adjusting his tie. As he headed to the conference room, his phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Good luck, dear. Remember, sometimes you have to play a little dirty to win. He frowned, disturbed by Sarah's insistence on questionable methods, but there was no time to dwell on that. The conference room doors opened, and William Parker, the titan of construction, walked in, ready to conquer yet another concrete and steel empire. Little did he know that, while he struggled to balance his professional and personal life, the real foundations of his world were being eroded by forces he had yet to fully comprehend. The sun had barely risen when Sarah woke up, her eyes opening with a determination that contrasted with the morning stillness. Next to her, William still slept soundly, exhausted after days of intense negotiations for the new commercial complex bid. Silently, Sarah slipped out of bed, putting on her silk robe. Today would be the day, she thought. The day she would take the next step in her carefully orchestrated plan. In the kitchen, the gentle morning light seeped through the windows, creating dancing shadows on the gleaming cabinets. Sarah hesitated for a moment, her eyes scanning the immaculate space. This wasn't her usual domain. Elizabeth had always been the one to prepare the family's breakfast. But today would be different. Today, Sarah would play the role of the devoted wife, making breakfast for her tired husband. Moving carefully, she began brewing coffee, the rich aroma soon filling the air. As the coffee machine bubbled, Sarah opened a hidden drawer, revealing a small vial containing a white powder. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unscrewed the lid. "Ah, just a little, Gus," she murmured to herself, enough to make him feel unwell, but not enough to raise suspicion. So intent was Sarah on her task that she failed to notice the two pairs of curious eyes watching her from the kitchen doorway. Emma and Olivia, awakened by the unusual smell of coffee so early, had come downstairs to investigate. The twins watched, a mixture of curiosity and distrust, as Sarah poured coffee into an elegant cup. Their eyes widened in horror when they saw their stepmother take the mysterious vial and add a small amount of the white powder to the steaming drink. "What's she doing?" Emma whispered, her voice trembling with fear. Olivia, always the more impulsive of the two, didn't wait to find out. With a sharp cry, she ran into the kitchen, Emma right behind her. "Stop! Don't do that to Daddy!" Olivia screamed, her voice echoing through the silent kitchen. Sarah whirled around, nearly knocking over the cup. Her face, usually composed, went pale with shock. "Girls! What are you doing here?" "We saw you put something in Daddy's coffee," Emma accused, her blue eyes shining with unshed tears. The sound of hurried footsteps announced the arrival of William and Elizabeth, both alarmed by the twins' screams. "What's going on here?" William demanded, his eyes sweeping over the chaotic scene before him. "Daddy, don't drink the coffee," Olivia pleaded, clinging to William's leg. "Sarah put some weird powder in it." William looked at Sarah, who appeared to have been caught red-handed. "Sarah, what are they talking about?" Recovering quickly, Sarah forced a smile. "Oh, darling, it's just a misunderstanding. I was making your coffee and decided to add some cinnamon for a special flavor. The girls must have mistaken it for something bad." Elizabeth, who had remained silent until then, stepped forward. "Mr. Parker, maybe I should make the coffee this morning, as usual." William, still confused by the situation, nodded slowly. "Yes, Beth, that might be best." The twins, still clinging to their father, shot accusing glares at Sarah. "It wasn't cinnamon, Daddy," Emma insisted. "It was a white powder in a weird bottle." Sarah let out a forced laugh. "Oh, darlings, you have such wild imaginations. Look, it's just cinnamon." She grabbed a jar from the shelf, showing its brown contents. William, torn between trust in his wife and his daughter's clear distress, sighed tiredly. "Girls, I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding. Sarah was trying to do something nice for me. There's no need for all this fuss." But the twins weren't convinced. Olivia, tears running down her face, cried, "You don't believe us, Daddy?" "She wants to hurt you." The tension in the kitchen was palpable. Sarah, maintaining her facade of innocence, approached William. "Honey, I'm so sorry for causing all this confusion. I just wanted to do something special for you before your big meeting today." William nodded, wrapping an arm around Sarah's shoulders. "I understand, love. Don't worry." The twins, seeing their father side with Sarah, were inconsolable. Elizabeth, sensing the need to intervene, approached the girls. "Come on, darlings. How about you help me make some special pancakes for breakfast?" As Elizabeth led the reluctant twins away, William turned to Sarah. "Maybe it's best if Beth handles meal prep for now, at least until the girls get more used to you." Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with what looked like tears. "Of course, dear. I only wanted to help, but I understand I need to take it slow." Once William left to get ready for work, Sarah remained alone in the kitchen. Her face, previously a mask of worry and innocence, now showed frustration and calculation. "Little brats," she muttered, looking at the vial hidden in her robe. "This is going to be harder than I thought." With a quick movement, she hid the vial and began wiping away any trace of her failed attempt. The morning might not have gone as planned, but Sarah was far from giving up. After all, this was only the beginning of a much bigger game. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the windows of the Parker mansion as Elizabeth, with furtive movements, pulled a coffee cup from the false bottom of her cabinet. Her eyes, usually serene, were clouded with worry as she examined its contents. 3 days had passed since the incident in the kitchen, 3 days of palpable tension, suspicious looks, and a deafening silence that seemed to swallow the entire house. Driven by years of loyalty to the Parker family and a maternal instinct to protect the twins, Elizabeth had made a bold decision that fateful morning. While everyone was distracted by the chaos, she had discreetly set aside the cup Sarah had prepared, determined to discover the truth. Now, with the lab results in hand, Elizabeth felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. The words on the paper confirmed her worst suspicions. The powder was not cinnamon, but a potentially harmful substance if ingested in large quantities. With heavy steps, she headed to William's office. Knocking softly, she heard his deep voice inviting her to enter. "Beth?" William looked up from a stack of documents, immediately noticing the grave expression on the housekeeper's face. "What is it?" Elizabeth closed the door behind her, approaching the desk. "Mr. Parker, there's something I need to show you." With trembling hands, she handed William the lab report, watching him closely as he read. She saw the exact moment comprehension struck him, his eyes widening and his face growing pale. This can't be right," he murmured, reading the document again. "I'm sorry, sir," Elizabeth said gently. "I knew I had to be sure, for the girl's sake and for yours." William let the paper fall onto the desk, running his hands over his face in pure despair. How is this possible? Sarah, she wouldn't do this." Elizabeth remained silent, allowing William to process the information. After a long few minutes, he finally looked up, a cold determination replacing the initial shock. "Beth, don't say a word about this to anyone," he instructed. "Not even to the girls, understand?" Elizabeth nodded solemnly. "Yes, sir. What do you intend to do?" William stood, walking to the window. His reflection on the glass showed a man torn between disbelief and anger. "I'm going to find out the truth, no matter the cost." That night, after making sure Sarah and the twins were asleep, William made a phone call. The raspy voice on the other end was familiar, bringing back memories of simpler times. "Mike, it's William Parker. I need your services." "It's urgent and must be kept strictly confidential." Mike Gallagher, a former police detective who now worked as a private investigator, listened intently as William explained the situation, omitting only the most sordid details. "I understand, Mr. Parker," Mike replied, his deep voice laden with concern. "I'll start immediately. I'll dig into her past, her contacts, everything." In the days that followed, William found himself torn between his normal routine and constant vigilance over Sarah. Every gesture, every word of hers now seemed fraught with hidden meaning. Sarah, for her part, appeared oblivious to her husband's growing suspicion. In fact, her behavior became increasingly erratic and suspect. One afternoon, William returned early from the office, only to find Sarah in his personal office, rifling through his files. "Sarah?" he called, startling her. "What are you doing here?" Sarah smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh dear, you scared me. I was just looking for that photo of us from last year. I thought I'd surprise you and put it in a new frame." William nodded slowly, noticing her hands trembled slightly. "Sure, but next time, just ask me. Some of these documents are confidential." "Naturally," Sarah answered, quickly leaving the office. "Sorry for snooping." Watching her go, William felt a knot in his stomach. What else might Sarah be hiding? The days turned into weeks, and tension at the Parker mansion mounted exponentially. The twins, still distrustful of Sarah, also noticed their father's change in behavior. "Beth," Emma whispered one night as the housekeeper tucked them into bed. "Why is Daddy always so worried now?" Elizabeth hesitated, torn between her desire to protect the children and the need to be honest. "Sometimes, dear, adults have worries they can't share with children, but don't worry. Your daddy loves you more than anything." Meanwhile, in his office, William received another report from Mike Gallagher. Each new piece of information raised more questions than it answered. "Mr. Parker," Mike's tense voice crackled over the phone, "I found some inconsistencies in Sarah's past. She apparently changed her name a few years back, and there are significant gaps in her history." William felt his heart tighten. "Keep looking, Mike. I need to know everything." Hanging up, William found himself staring at a photo of his wedding with Sarah. Her radiant smile, which once enchanted him, now seemed like a mask hiding dark secrets. That night, lying next to Sarah, William remained awake, his mind a whirlwind of doubts and theories. Who really was the woman beside him, and what did she truly want? As the moon moved across the sky, casting unsettling shadows through the bedroom, William Parker knew he was on the brink of discoveries that could destroy not just his marriage, but possibly the life he had built. William Parker's office was dimly lit by twilight when Mike Gallagher entered, carrying a thick folder under his arm. The private investigator looked older and more tired than William remembered, dark circles beneath his eyes, telling the story of sleepless nights devoted to the investigation. "Mr. Parker," Mike greeted, his grave voice breaking the oppressive silence of the office. William gestured for him to sit, leaning forward with a mix of anxiety and apprehension. "What did you find, Mike?" The detective opened the folder, spreading photos and documents across the mahogany desk. "Mr. Parker, Sarah's past is a web of lies and false identities. She's not who she claims to be." William felt his stomach sink. Part of him had still hoped this was all a terrible misunderstanding. "Explain," he demanded, his voice hoarse. "Sarah Parker, as we know her, has only existed for 5 years, Mike began, pointing to a series of documents. "Before that, she was Sarah Thompson, and before that, Lisa Grayson. Each identity lasts only a few years before completely disappearing." William studied the documents, his heart pounding in his chest. Photos of Sarah with different hair colors and styles, birth certificates with conflicting dates, college diplomas from institutions that had never heard of her. "There's more," Mike continued, concern coloring his voice. "I found connections to several wealthy, powerful men in each of her identities. Men who, coincidentally, faced mysterious financial setbacks shortly after getting involved with her." William's mind reeled. The implications were devastating. Sarah wasn't just a liar, but possibly a professional con artist, and he, William Parker, the shrewd businessman, had fallen right into her trap. "What do I do, Mike?" William asked, his voice barely a whisper. The detective looked at him sympathetically. "Legally, we have enough evidence to confront her, but," he hesitated, "if she's as dangerous as we suspect, a direct confrontation might be risky. I suggest we keep monitoring her discreetly while gathering more concrete proof." William nodded slowly, the reality of his situation weighing on him like a slab of concrete. "Thank you, Mike. Keep digging. I need to know everything." After the detective left, William stayed in his office, staring at the proof of Sarah's betrayal. Pain and anger swirled in his chest, threatening to suffocate him. But years of tough negotiations had taught him to remain composed even in the worst situations. "Two can play this game, Sarah," he murmured to himself, carefully storing the documents in his safe. The next morning, William came downstairs for breakfast wearing a carefully rehearsed smile. Sarah was already in the kitchen, making eggs and toast. "Good morning, dear," she smiled, leaning in to kiss him. "Did you sleep well?" William returned the kiss, fighting the urge to pull away. "Like a rock," he lied smoothly. "And you?" Sarah hesitated for a fraction of a second, something William would not have noticed if he hadn't been watching. "Oh, wonderfully. I was thinking, maybe I could drop by your office today. I'm curious to see where the magic happens." William felt his body tense but kept smiling. "Sure, why not? Maybe we can have lunch together." Sarah's eyes sparkled with what William now recognized as calculation, not affection. That would be perfect. Throughout the day, William observed Sarah with newly opened eyes. Every gesture, every word now seemed loaded with ulterior motives. He caught her several times trying to access his computer or snooping through drawers that were normally locked. "Just looking for a pen, dear," she smiled sweetly when he caught her rummaging in his desk. William only nodded, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Third drawer on the left, love." That night, after Sarah went to bed, William crept into his office. Carefully, he checked every file, every document, searching for signs of tampering. That's when he noticed a missing folder containing crucial information about the new commercial complex bid. His heart raced. Sarah was getting bolder, more desperate. Whatever she was planning, it was reaching a critical point. With trembling hands, William grabbed his phone, typing an encoded message to Mike. "Fox is in the hen house. We need to move fast." As he waited for a reply, William found himself staring at the wedding photo of him and Sarah that still adorned his desk. Her radiant smile, which once charmed him, now seemed like a grotesque mask, mocking his naivety. Upstairs, Sarah was typing furiously on a hidden laptop, transferring information from the stolen folder. Her face, usually sweet, was contorted in cold determination. "Almost there," she murmured to herself. "So just a bit more, and everything he has will be mine." Back in the office, William received Mike's response. "Understood. Increasing surveillance. Get ready for a confrontation." Exhaling heavily, William put his phone away. The battle was about to begin, and he was determined not to lose everything he'd built to a woman who had infiltrated his life with lies and deceit. As the night wore on, the Parker mansion seemed to hold its breath, as if sensing the storm approaching. Upstairs, the twins slept peacefully, oblivious to the drama unfolding. Elizabeth, ever watchful, made her nightly rounds, her sharp eyes picking up on every subtle shift in the house's atmosphere. And at the center of it all, William and Sarah, husband and wife, predator and prey, each planning their next move in a deadly game of cat and mouse. The truth was emerging from the shadows, and with it, the promise of a confrontation that would change their lives forever. The sun had barely risen when William Parker descended the staircase of the mansion, adjusting his tie with exaggerated care. His face, typically a mask of confidence, now carried a subtle tension that only the keenest observers would notice. "Good morning, dear," Sarah's melodious voice rang out from the kitchen. "Coffee?" William forced a smile, walking into the kitchen with measured steps. "Sure, love. Thank you." He watched closely as Sarah prepared the cup, his eyes searching for any suspicious movement. But today, she seemed perfectly normal, smiling sweetly as she handed him the coffee. "Big plans for today?" Sarah asked casually, leaning against the kitchen counter. William took a sip, keeping his face expressionless. "The usual, meetings, contracts, you know how it goes." Sarah nodded, her eyes gleaming with that calculating light he now recognized. Of course. Hey, I was thinking of dropping by your office this afternoon, and maybe we could have lunch." "I'd love to," William replied, his voice betraying no hint of the suspicion gnawing at him inside. "See you there around noon." As William left for work, the twins, Emma and Olivia, watched from the stairs, their big eyes full of concern. "Daddy's different," Emma whispered to her sister. Olivia nodded solemnly. "He smiles, but his eyes are sad." The girls exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between them. Something was wrong in their little world, and they were determined to find out what. At William's office, the day proceeded like a carefully choreographed dance. Each time Sarah appeared, he played the role of the loving, carefree husband, letting her accidentally see carefully prepared documents full of false information. "Oh, that looks important," Sarah commented, her eyes skimming a folder William had forgotten open on his desk. William feigned surprise, casually closing the folder. "Oh, yes. Just a few figures for the next board meeting. Nothing too exciting." Sarah smiled, but William noticed the flash of interest in her eyes. "Well, I don't want to interrupt. I'll leave you to it." As soon as she left, William released a tense sigh. The game was escalating, and he knew he needed to be extremely careful. Back at the mansion, Elizabeth moved silently through the hallways, her years of experience evident in each calculated step. Something about Sarah had bothered her from the start, and now, with the changes in William's behavior, her concerns had intensified. Seizing the opportunity while Sarah was out, Elizabeth slipped into the master bedroom. Her experienced eyes scanned every corner, searching for anything out of place. Then she noticed a small bulge under the wallpaper near Sarah's headboard. Carefully, Elizabeth peeled back the loose paper, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside, she found a prepaid cell phone and a series of folded papers. Heart pounding, Elizabeth quickly photographed the contents with her own phone before replacing everything and smoothing the wallpaper back into place. The evidence she had just discovered confirmed her worst fears about Sarah. That evening, when William returned, Elizabeth waited for him in his office, her face a mask of worry. "Mr. Parker," she began, her voice low and urgent, "I found something you need to see." William listened in silence as Elizabeth described her discovery, showing him the photos she had taken. Each new piece of information was like a blow, further confirming his suspicions about Sarah. "Thank you, Beth," he said at last, his voice weary. "You did the right thing telling me. Please keep an eye on her, but be discreet." After Elizabeth left, William leaned back in his chair, his mind spinning. Sarah's betrayal was now undeniable, but he needed to keep playing the game until all the pieces were in place. At dinner, the tension was palpable, though carefully concealed. William and Sarah made casual conversation about their days, each word a meticulously rehearsed performance. The twins, sitting quietly, watched the interaction with watchful eyes far too perceptive for their age. Emma nudged Olivia under the table, nodding subtly toward the adults. Olivia nodded in return, silently acknowledging that something was definitely wrong. Later, after putting the girls to bed, William again retreated to his office, reviewing the information Mike Gallagher had sent earlier. Sarah's past was a labyrinth of lies and false identities, each layer revealing more questions than answers. A soft knock on the door made him look up. Sarah entered, wearing a silk nightgown that once would have set his heart racing. "Working late again, dear?" she asked, her voice honey-sweet. William forced a tired smile. "Yes, you know how it is. Always one more contract to review." Sarah approached, gently massaging his shoulders. "You work too hard. Why don't you come to bed?" "I can help you. Relax." For a moment, William nearly gave in to the temptation to confront her right then, to expose all the lies and betrayals. But years of tough negotiations had taught him the value of patience. "Sure, love," he replied, standing up. "I'll just put these documents away and head up." As Sarah left the office, William watched her, noticing how her eyes darted quickly over his papers. He knew that as soon as he fell asleep, she would likely be back to rummage through his files. With a heavy sigh, William placed the real documents in his safe, leaving only false information visible. The game went on, each move carefully planned in a deadly dance of deception and counter-deception. That night, as the Parker mansion slept, several minds remained restless. William, lying next to Sarah, planned his next move. Sarah, feigning sleep, waited for the right moment to resume her search. The twins, in their room, whispered theories about their parents' strange behavior. And Elizabeth, ever vigilant, made one last round, her eyes attuned to any sign of danger. The double game was in full swing, and only time would tell who would emerge victorious from this perilous match of emotional chess. Night fell over the Parker mansion, wrapping it in shadows that seemed to hide secrets in every corner. Sarah Parker paced anxiously through the garden, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. She glanced over her shoulder constantly, as if afraid of being watched. Finally, the device vibrated. With trembling fingers, Sarah answered, her voice barely above a whisper. "James." "Sis," came the raspy voice on the other end. "How are things going at the Billionaire's house?" Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the weight of her situation. "James, this is getting complicated. William is smarter than we thought, and the girls, James interrupted, his voice sharp. "Don't tell me you're getting attached to those brats." "It's not that," Sarah protested, though her voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. "It's just, they're innocent in all this." James let out a bitter laugh. "Innocent? Like we were innocent when we lost everything. Don't forget why you're there, Sarah. Don't forget our goal." Sarah felt tears forming in her eyes. I know. But what if we're wrong? What if—" "Enough," James growled. "You're there for one thing. Find those documents and help me take back what's rightfully ours. Don't you dare waver now." The call ended abruptly, leaving Sarah alone with her conflicting thoughts. For a moment, she stood still, staring at the illuminated mansion. Inside were William, the twins, the life she had begun to genuinely desire. And out here, in the darkness, was loyalty to her brother and the promise of revenge that had brought her to this point. What Sarah didn't notice, in her agitation, was the figure standing in the second-floor window. William, awakened by a sixth sense he had developed in recent weeks, watched his wife with a mixture of pain and determination. He couldn't hear the conversation, but Sarah's body language told a clear story. She was torn, fighting against something, or someone. As Sarah returned inside, William withdrew to his office, his mind racing. Who was this mysterious contact? What was Sarah hiding that made her so visibly distressed? The next day, breakfast at the Parker mansion was a scene of forced normalcy. William and Sarah exchanged tense smiles over their coffee, each playing the part of loving spouse with painful precision. Emma and Olivia, observing their parents' interaction with sharp eyes that belied their age, noticed the subtle changes in them, the smiles that didn't reach their eyes, the whispered conversations that ended abruptly when they entered the room. "Something's wrong," Emma whispered to Olivia as they pretended to eat their cereal. Olivia nodded, her gaze never leaving her father's tense face. "We need to figure out what it is." The girls exchanged determined looks. They might be young, but they weren't fools. If the adults wouldn't tell them the truth, they would find it out themselves. After breakfast, when William left for work and Sarah withdrew to the bedroom, the twins put their plan into action. With the stealth of tiny spies, they crept along the corridor, stopping outside the master bedroom door. "Ready?" Emma asked, her hand on the doorknob. Olivia nodded, her heart pounding with the thrill of forbidden adventure. Silently, they entered the room, their eyes scanning every corner in search of, well, they didn't know exactly what, but they were sure they'd recognize it when they saw it. Olivia noticed it first, a small bulge in the wallpaper near Sarah's headboard. Carefully, she pulled the paper back, revealing the secret compartment. "Emma, look!" she whispered excitedly. The twins examined the contents of the hiding spot, a prepaid phone and several folded papers. Though they didn't fully understand the significance of what they'd found, they instinctively knew it was important. "We have to tell Daddy," Emma declared, her little face set with seriousness. But before they could make a move, they heard footsteps approaching. Panicking, they quickly replaced everything and hid in the closet, hardly daring to breathe. Sarah entered the bedroom, muttering to herself. The twins peeked through a crack in the closet door as she retrieved the hidden phone and dialed a number. "James," Sarah said in a low voice, "I found the documents you wanted, but I'm not sure I can do this." "William, the girls, and they don't deserve this." The twins exchanged confused looks. Who was James, and what was Sarah planning to do? The conversation continued for a few minutes, with Sarah growing increasingly agitated. Finally, she hung up, leaving the room with heavy steps. As soon as the coast was clear, Emma and Olivia emerged from their hiding place, their young minds reeling with what they'd witnessed. "We have to tell Daddy," Olivia insisted. Emma hesitated. "But what if he doesn't believe us? We're just kids." The twins fell silent for a moment, weighing their situation. Finally, Emma spoke. "Beth, let's tell Beth. She always believes us." With a plan in mind, the girls snuck out of the room, determined to protect their father and their family, even if they didn't fully understand what they were up against. Meanwhile, at William's office, the Parker family patriarch stared at a photo of himself and Sarah on their wedding day, his heart heavy with suspicions and doubts. He knew he was nearing a point of no return. Soon, he would have to confront Sarah, expose the lies and betrayals, but for now, the game continued. William picked up his phone, typing a message to Mike Gallagher. "We need more info on Sarah's contacts. There's someone named James involved. Find out who he is." As the day progressed, the Parker mansion buzzed with secrets and conspiracies. Sarah, torn between her loyalty to James and her growing feelings for the Parker family, William, determined to uncover the truth at any cost, and the twins, innocent but determined, about to become key players in a game far bigger than they could imagine. The storm was coming, and no one at the Parker mansion would emerge unscathed from its relentless winds. William Parker's office buzzed with tension that sunny afternoon when his assistant walked in, carrying a stack of documents and looking concerned. "Mr. Parker," he began hesitantly, "we have a problem with the downtown commercial project." William looked up from the papers he was reviewing, his brow furrowed with worry. "What kind of problem, Mark?" "The blueprints. They've been altered. Someone changed the structural specifications, if we hadn't noticed." Mark swallowed, letting the implication hang in the air. William felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't a simple error, it was deliberate sabotage. Who had access to these documents? Mark shook his head, clearly disturbed. "That's the issue, sir. Only a handful of people are authorized to access them, and all of them are trusted employees." William nodded slowly, his mind racing. He had a suspicion about who might be behind this, but he needed certainty. "Mark, I want a full security audit. Check all access logs, cameras, everything. And don't mention this to anyone." As soon as his assistant left, William leaned back in his chair, the weight of the situation settling on his shoulders. Things were escalating fast, and he feared what might come next. As if in response to his dark thoughts, his phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. "Back off from the downtown project, Parker, or the consequences will be more than just altered plans." William felt his blood run cold. The threat was clear, and he knew he couldn't ignore it. With slightly trembling hands, he dialed Mike Gallagher's number. "Mike, I need you to trace the origin of a message for me and increase security around my family. Things are getting dangerous." Meanwhile, back at the Parker mansion, Sarah paced anxiously through the garden, her phone clenched in her hand like a lifeline. She hesitated several times before finally dialing the familiar number. "James," she said as soon as the call connected, her voice tense. "We need to talk." "What is it now, Sarah?" James's voice sounded impatient on the other end. "Things are going too far," Sarah replied, her voice trembling slightly. "Sabotage. Threats." "This wasn't part of the plan." James let out a harsh laugh. "The plan evolves, sis. William Parker needs pressure from all sides if we want to bring him down." Sarah felt a knot form in her stomach. "But what if someone gets hurt? The girls—" "The girls," James interrupted sharply. "Don't tell me you're actually getting attached to them. Remember why we're doing this, Sarah. Remember what Parker did to our family." Sarah closed her eyes, painful memories flooding her mind, but along with them came more recent images. William's warm smile, the twins' laughter, the peace she had found with the family she was supposed to target. I'm not sure I can go through with this, James," she admitted softly. "You have no choice," James snarled. "We're too close now, don't you dare waver." The call ended abruptly, leaving Sarah nauseated and full of doubt. She looked at the mansion, feeling more torn than ever. Inside the house, the twins, Emma and Olivia, hid behind a large ornamental plant, having overheard part of Sarah's conversation. "Who's James?" Emma whispered, her eyes wide with worry. Olivia shook her head, her small face creased in concentration. "I don't know, but he doesn't sound like a good person." "We have to tell Daddy," Emma decided. The girls slipped out from behind the plant, determined to protect their family, though they didn't fully understand the magnitude of what they faced. That evening, dinner at the Parker mansion was once again filled with barely disguised tension. William watched Sarah closely, noting each nervous movement, each furtive glance. Sarah, for her part, seemed distant, lost in thought. The twins exchanged meaningful looks, their young minds working on how to approach their father without alerting Sarah. Finally, Elizabeth broke the uncomfortable silence. "Mr. Parker, is there something you'd like to discuss? You seem worried." William hesitated, his eyes shifting quickly between Sarah and the girls. "Actually, Beth, there is something I'd like to discuss in private." Sarah looked up, a flicker of alarm crossing her face. "So is there a problem, dear?" William forced a smile. "Nothing you need to worry about, love. Just some company matters." Later, in William's office, Elizabeth listened with growing concern as he recounted recent events. "This is very serious, Mr. Parker," she said, her voice thick with apprehension. "Do you think Mrs. Parker is involved?" William ran a hand over his tired face. "I'm not sure of anything, Beth, but I know I can't fully trust her." At that moment, a gentle knock on the door interrupted their conversation. The twins entered, their faces far too serious for children so young. "Daddy," Emma began, her voice shaking slightly. "Shall we have something to tell you?" William knelt, bringing himself to their level. "What is it, Princess?" Olivia took the lead. "We heard Sarah talking to someone named James. She seemed scared, Daddy." William felt his heart clench. His daughters, so young and innocent, were now caught in this dangerous game. "Thank you for telling me, girls," he said softly, hugging them. "You did the right thing." After Elizabeth took the girls upstairs to bed, William remained in his office, his thoughts swirling. The puzzle pieces were coming together, but the picture they formed was dark and threatening. He picked up his phone, typing a message to Mike Gallagher. "We need to act fast. Situation deteriorating. Meet me at dawn." As night fell, the Parker mansion seemed to hold its breath, as if sensing the oncoming storm. In the master bedroom, Sarah lay awake, silent tears rolling down her cheeks as she wrestled with her conscience. Out in the hall, William made one last round, checking locks and alarms, determined to protect his family at all costs. And in their bedrooms, the twins slept fitfully, their dreams disturbed by shadows and unfamiliar voices. Morning would bring new challenges and revelations, but for now, the night cloaked the Parker mansion in tense silence, unspoken threats hovering in the air like restless ghosts. Dawn had barely broken when Elizabeth began her daily routine at the Parker mansion. Years of loyal service had sharpened her senses, and she could feel the tension in the air, as dense as winter fog. While vacuuming William's office, her gaze was drawn to a piece of paper partially visible under the desk. Intrigued, she picked it up, her eyes widening as she read its contents. It was a list of offshore bank account numbers, each with an astronomical balance next to it. "Oh dear," Elizabeth murmured, her heart pounding. She knew she shouldn't pry, but her loyalty to the Parker family outweighed any hesitation. With trembling hands, she photographed the document with her phone before replacing it exactly where she found it. Something told her this information could be crucial. Meanwhile, in the twins' bedroom, Emma and Olivia had been awake for hours, whispering excitedly about their plan. "Are you sure about this, Emma?" Olivia asked, nervously biting her lip. Emma nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "We have to find out what Sarah's hiding." "For Daddy." The girls crept out of their room, their bare feet barely making a sound on the plush carpet. They hid behind a large ornamental plant in the hallway, waiting patiently. It wasn't long before Sarah emerged from her room, glancing furtively around before heading to William's office. The twins followed silently, their hearts racing with the excitement of a secret mission. Through the office's slightly open door, they saw Sarah rummaging through William's desk drawers, muttering to herself in frustration. Suddenly, Sarah's phone rang, making her jump. She answered quickly, her voice a tense whisper. "James, I haven't found the documents." "William must have hidden them somewhere else." She paused, listening. "No, I can't keep doing this. It's too risky. And the girls, they don't deserve this." The twins exchanged shocked looks. Who was James? And what was Sarah looking for? Before they could hear more, the sound of approaching footsteps forced them to dash back to their room, their little hearts pounding with the weight of the secret they now carried. William returned home earlier that day, his mind heavy with information Mike Gallagher had shared. The evidence against Sarah was mounting, and he knew he couldn't delay the inevitable confrontation any longer. He found Sarah in the living room, flipping distractedly through a magazine. For a moment, he watched her, his heart aching at the betrayal he was about to expose. "Sarah," he called softly, making her look up. "How'd we need to talk?" Something in William's voice must have alarmed Sarah, because she immediately sat up straighter, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Of course, dear. What's wrong?" William sat facing her, his eyes never leaving hers. "Who are you really, Sarah? Or should I say, Lisa Grayson? Or maybe Sarah Thompson?" Sarah's face visibly paled, but she kept her composure. "What are you talking about, William?" No more lies, William said, his voice firm but sad. I know about your past, the false identities, the wealthy men you've ruined. What I don't know is why. Why me? Why my family? Sarah was silent for a long moment, tears filling her eyes. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. You really don't remember, do you? What you did to my father's company, to our family? William frowned, confused. What are you talking about? Grayson Enterprises, Sarah said, her voice trembling with pent-up emotion. My father built that company from nothing, and you destroyed it with your ruthless tactics. My father lost everything. William. He took his own life because of it. The revelation hit William like a punch in the gut. He remembered the Graysons, of course. A hostile takeover years ago, just another step in his climb to the top. He had never known the personal repercussions. Sarah, I had no idea, he began, but she cut him off. It doesn't matter now, Sarah said, wiping away a tear. Guys, what matters is that I came here with a purpose, revenge. But now, she hesitated, looking around the room at the family photos. Now I'm not sure I can go through with it. William watched her closely, his heart torn between compassion for her pain and anger at her betrayal. Who's James? He finally asked. Sarah closed her eyes, as though the question caused her physical pain. My brother, he's the one behind all this. The sabotage, the threats. At that moment, a muffled scream from the hallway interrupted their conversation. William jumped up, rushing to the door. There he found Emma and Olivia, their faces pale with shock. Daddy, Emma sobbed. Is Sarah bad? Does she want to hurt you? William's heart broke at the fear in his daughter's eyes. He knelt, pulling them into a tight hug. No, princesses, it's complicated, but Sarah isn't evil. Sometimes people do bad things when they're hurt. Sarah appeared in the doorway, her eyes red with tears. Seeing the girls, she took a hesitant step toward them. Saif, I'm so sorry, she whispered. Sorry for everything. The twins looked at her with a mix of fear and confusion, pressing closer to William. At that moment, Elizabeth appeared in the hallway, her eyes quickly assessing the scene. Mr. Parker, she said calmly but firmly, I think it's time for the girls to go to bed. And maybe it's time for some difficult decisions to be made. William nodded, grateful for the housekeeper's intervention. As Elizabeth led the twins away, he turned to Sarah, his face set in determination. We have a lot to discuss, he said, and decisions to make. But first I need to know everything, every detail, every plan. And I need to know now. Sarah nodded slowly, resignation and relief mingling in her expression. All right, she said softly, I'll tell you everything. As the two headed to the office for a long and painful conversation, the Parker mansion seemed to hold its breath. The truth was finally emerging, but the consequences of that revelation were still to come. And somewhere in the darkness of the night, James waited, unaware that his elaborate revenge plan was about to collapse. The tension at the Parker mansion was palpable as William and Sarah sat facing each other in the office. The silence between them was heavy, laden with secrets about to be revealed. Start from the beginning, William said, his voice firm but tinged with exhaustion. Sarah took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on her trembling hands. My real name is Sarah Donovan. James. James Donovan is my brother. William felt as though he'd been punched. James Donovan, his former business partner, the man who nearly destroyed everything he'd worked for. James, he repeated, incredulous. But how? Sarah looked up, tears shining in her eyes. After you forced James out of the company, our family fell into disgrace. We lost everything, William. My father couldn't bear the humiliation and... Her voice failed. William closed his eyes, guilt consuming him. He remembered that time, discovering James's embezzlement, the difficult decision to remove him, the legal battle that followed. But he had never known the personal repercussions for the Donovan family. James became obsessed with revenge, Sarah continued. He planned all of this for years. I was supposed to get close to you, gain your trust, and then, before she could finish, the doorbell rang through the mansion. William and Sarah exchanged alarmed looks. Elizabeth appeared at the office door, her expression grave. "Mr. Parker, there's a man at the door. He says he's Mrs. Parker's brother." William's blood ran cold. "James," he murmured. Sarah jumped to her feet, panic in her eyes. "Don't let him in, William. He wasn't supposed to be here." But it was too late. Heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway, and James Donovan stormed into the office, his eyes blazing with a mix of triumph and fury. "Well, well," he said, a cold smile on his lips. "What a touching reunion." William instinctively positioned himself between James and Sarah. "What do you want, James?" James laughed, a humorless sound. "What do I want? Everything, William, everything you took from me." Sarah stepped forward, her voice trembling. "James, please, this has to stop." "Stop!" James snarled, turning on his sister. "After everything we've been through, after what he did to our family." William watched the exchange, pieces of the puzzle clicking into place in his mind. "You two planned this together," he said, the realization hitting. "This whole time," James smirked, a gesture that didn't reach his eyes. "Brilliant, isn't it? Sarah, the devoted wife, earning your trust while I worked behind the scenes, sabotaging your projects, threatening your contacts." "But why?" William asked, though he already knew the answer. "Revenge, William," James spat. "You destroyed our family. Our father took his own life because of you." William felt the weight of those words. "I didn't know," he said softly. "James, what you did, the embezzlement, I had no choice." "There's always a choice," James yelled. "You chose to destroy me." Sarah stepped between the two men. "Enough. James, this won't bring our father back. And William, he's not the monster we thought he was." James glared at his sister, betrayal in his eyes. "You too, Sarah. You've fallen under his spell?" "No," Sarah replied, her voice steady for the first time. "I've seen the truth. I've seen the family he's built, the man he is, our plan. It was wrong from the start." The silence that followed was broken by a small sound at the door. They all turned to see Emma and Olivia standing there, eyes wide with fear and confusion. "Daddy?" Emma called, her voice trembling. William's heart clenched. "It's okay, princesses. Go back to your room, please." But James had other plans. With a swift move, he drew a gun, pointing it at William. "Not so fast. The girls stay. I want them to see who their father really is." Sarah gasped, stepping protectively in front of the twins. "James, no. They have nothing to do with this." William took a step forward, hands raised in a placating gesture. "James, let's talk about this. I know I made mistakes, but there are other ways to resolve this." James laughed bitterly. "Talk? Now you want to talk? Where was this willingness when you kicked me out of the company we built together?" The tension in the air was unbearable. The twins sobbed quietly, clinging to Sarah. Elizabeth, who had arrived unnoticed, stood at the door, her face etched with concern. "Mr. Donovan," she said softly, "think carefully about what you're doing. These children don't deserve this." James hesitated for a moment, his gaze shifting between William, Sarah, and the twins. For an instant, it seemed he might reconsider. But then his face hardened again. "No. William needs to pay for what he did. All of you need to understand what it's like to lose everything." William took another step forward. "James, I understand your pain. Believe me, if I'd known the consequences, I would have done things differently, but this, it won't bring your father back. It won't undo the past." "No," James agreed, his voice trembling. "But it will give me the satisfaction of seeing you suffer the way I did." That was when Sarah made her decision. With a sudden move, she lunged at James, trying to disarm him. "Sarah, no!" William shouted, but it was too late. A struggle ensued, with William joining Sarah in an attempt to restrain James. The twins screamed, Elizabeth pulling them away from danger. The deafening sound of a gunshot echoed through the mansion. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, chaos erupted. Sarah staggered backward, blood staining her blouse. James dropped the gun, horror in his eyes as he realized what he had done. "Sarah!" William cried, rushing to support her. While Elizabeth called an ambulance and the twins cried hysterically, William held Sarah in his arms, applying pressure to the wound. "Stay with me, Sarah," he begged. "See, please, stay with me." Sarah's eyes met William's, a mixture of pain and regret in them. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything." James stood paralyzed, watching the scene in horror. "I didn't mean... Sarah, Sirens could be heard in the distance, growing closer. In that moment, as Sarah's life hung by a thread and everyone's fate teetered on the brink, William Parker understood the true cost of unfettered ambition and the destructive power of revenge. The Parker mansion, once a symbol of success and happiness, was now stained with the blood of secrets long buried and shocking revelations no one could have predicted. St. Mary's Hospital was enveloped in its characteristic early morning silence. In the hallway of the surgical wing, William Parker paced back and forth, his face a mask of worry and exhaustion. The last few hours had been a whirlwind of emotions and revelations, and now, as Sarah fought for her life in the operating room, he found himself in limbo, suspended between uncertainty and guilt. Elizabeth arrived, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Any news?" she asked gently, offering one to William. He shook his head, accepting the coffee gratefully. "Nothing yet." "And the girls? Finally asleep," Elizabeth replied. "My sister is at the mansion with them." William nodded, grateful for Elizabeth's constant and comforting presence. Then he noticed a solitary figure sitting at the end of the corridor, hands cuffed, head bowed. James Donovan looked like a shadow of the confident, vengeful man who had burst into the Parker mansion hours earlier. Now, under police custody, he radiated an aura of defeat and regret. Driven by a mixture of anger and curiosity, William approached James. "Why?" he asked simply. James raised his red, tear-swollen eyes. "You really don't get it, do you, William?" he said, his voice rough. "It wasn't just about money or power. It was about justice." William sat down next to his former partner, keeping a cautious distance. "Then help me understand. Explain how trying to destroy my family and my company is justice." James let out a bitter laugh. "Your company, our company, William. Parker and Donovan Construction, remember? The one we built from the ground up?" Memories flooded William's mind. Sleepless nights, planning projects, celebrating successful contracts, the thrill of seeing their dreams become reality. "Of course I remember," William replied softly. "But you betrayed my trust, James. The embezzlement, the under-the-table dealings." "I did what had to be done," James burst out, his voice echoing through the empty corridor. "That last project, you didn't see the implications. I was trying to save the company, save our legacy." William frowned, confused. "What are you talking about?" James leaned forward, his eyes shining with feverish intensity. "The Horizon Project. I found out the land was contaminated. If we had gone ahead, we'd have faced massive lawsuits. The company would have been destroyed. I tried to warn you, but you refused to listen." The revelation hit William like a punch. He remembered James's frenzied attempts to delay the project, which he had interpreted at the time as fear and incompetence. "So you diverted the money to pay for the soil treatment in secret," James finished. "I knew you'd never agree to delay the project, so I made the decision on my own. I thought I was saving everything we'd worked for." William leaned back, stunned. Years of anger and resentment began to fade, replaced by a painful understanding. Why didn't you tell me the truth afterward? Why all this elaborate revenge?" William asked, his voice heavy with regret. James's eyes filled with tears. "Because when you kicked me out, accused me of theft and fraud, you destroyed more than my career. You destroyed my family, my father." His voice trailed off. "I'm so sorry, James," William said softly. "And I truly had no idea." At that moment, the surgery room doors swung open and a doctor stepped out, his face grave. "Mr. Parker," William jumped up, his heart pounding. "How is she?" "The surgery was successful," the doctor informed him, "but the next 24 hours will be critical. She's asking to see you and her brother." William glanced at James, who looked as surprised as he was. After a brief discussion with the police officers, James, still handcuffed, was allowed to accompany William to Sarah's room. Sarah lay in the hospital bed, pale and fragile, tubes and monitors surrounding her. Her eyes opened slowly as William and James entered. "Both of you here," she murmured with a faint smile. "It must be the end of the world." William gently took her hand. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a train," Sarah replied before turning her attention to James. "Why, James, why lie to me all these years?" James approached the bed, tears streaming down his face. "Sarah, I'm so sorry. I was so consumed by anger, by the injustice of it all." "You used me," Sarah said, her voice weak but accusatory. "You made me believe William was a monster, that he destroyed our family on purpose." "I believed it," James admitted. "But now I know I was wrong about a lot of things." Sarah closed her eyes, tears slipping from the corners. "All these years, all those lies." William squeezed Sarah's hand gently. "Sarah, James told me everything. About the Horizon project, about the real reasons behind the missing money." Sarah's eyes widened in surprise. "What?" James stepped closer, his voice trembling. "I never told you the whole truth, Sarah. I manipulated you, used your pain and your loyalty to our family for my own ends. I was so obsessed with revenge that I didn't see how much I was hurting you in the process." Sarah looked between William and James, confusion and pain clear on her face. "I don't know what to think or who to believe." "Believe the truth," William said softly. "James made mistakes, but his original intentions were good. And I was quick to judge. We all share responsibility for what happened." A heavy silence fell over the room, weighted by years of secrets and misunderstandings, finally brought into the light. "What happens now?" Sarah finally asked, her voice just a whisper. William glanced at James, then back at Sarah. "Since we start fixing what was broken, all of us," James nodded slowly. "I'll face the consequences of what I've done. But Sarah, I hope one day you can forgive me." Sarah closed her eyes, exhausted. "It'll take time," she murmured, "for all of us." As Sarah drifted off, William and James exchanged a look of mutual understanding. The road ahead would be long and difficult, full of legal, emotional, and ethical challenges. But for the first time in years, there was a spark of hope. Outside the room, Elizabeth waited, her expression a mix of concern and relief. "Is everything all right, Mr. Parker?" William looked back toward Sarah's room, where she slept, and James stood by her bed, his head bowed in quiet reflection. "Not yet, Beth," he answered honestly. "But maybe, with time and effort, it can be." As the sun rose over the city, casting a golden glow through the hospital windows, William Parker found himself at a crossroads. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The revelations of this night had changed everything. Now it was up to him to decide what kind of man he wanted to be going forward, and what kind of legacy he wanted to leave for his daughters. William Parker's office, once a sanctuary of power and decisions, now felt like an arena about to witness the final confrontation. The tension was palpable, electrifying the air as William, Sarah, and James faced off in a triangle of conflicting emotions. James Guian, still showing signs of fatigue and stress, brandished a stack of papers. "It's simple, William. Sign over the shares, and this all ends right here and now." Standing behind his desk, William remained impassive. "Do you really think, after all this, I'd just hand over my company? The company I built, the one you tried to destroy?" "That I tried to destroy." James let out a bitter laugh. "You started this, William, when you kicked me out, when you destroyed our partnership." Sarah, still pale from her recent hospital stay, watched the exchange with careful eyes. Her mind spun with the revelations of the past days, the truth about James's manipulations and William's real intentions. "James," she intervened gently, "this has to stop. Look where your vengeance has brought us. Look at what it's done to us." James turned to his sister, his gaze softening momentarily before hardening once more. "Don't let him fool you, Sarah. William isn't the saint you think he is now." "I know he's not perfect," Sarah said, her voice gaining strength. "But I also know you manipulated me, used me as a pawn in your revenge scheme." William observed Sarah intently, seeing the inner battle in her eyes. He knew this was the decisive moment, not only for the company, but for everyone involved. "James," William said, his voice calm but firm, "I made mistakes. I was hasty in judging you and didn't see the big picture. But what you're doing now, this isn't justice, it's obsession." James shook his head, his eyes blazing with a mix of fury and desperation. "You don't understand, you can't understand. I lost everything because of you, and now you're about to lose what's left," Sarah cut in, taking a step toward her brother. "Your freedom, your dignity. James, please, don't do this." For a moment, James seemed to waver. His gaze flicked around the office, landing on the family photos on William's desk, the twins grinning. Happy moments captured in time. "It's too late," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. In a swift move, James pulled out a gun, pointing it at William. "Sign the papers, William." "Now!" Sarah gasped, instinctively moving to stand between James and William. "James, no! Think about what you're doing." William, surprisingly calm in the face of the threat, spoke softly. "James, think of the consequences, not just for me or you, but for Sarah, for our families." "What families?" James spat, his hand trembling slightly. "You destroyed mine, remember?" Sarah, tears in her eyes, took another step toward her brother. "No, James. We're still a family, despite everything, despite the mistakes and the lies. Don't throw that away." A deafening silence followed. James looked back and forth between Sarah and William, his resolve visibly crumbling. That was when the office door burst open. Emma and Olivia, having slipped away from Elizabeth's watchful eye, ran into the room. "Daddy!" Emma shouted, stopping short when she saw the scene. Time seemed to freeze. Shocked by the children's sudden appearance, James instinctively lowered the gun. William seized the moment of distraction. In one quick move, he lunged at James, disarming him and pinning him to the floor. "Elizabeth!" Sarah screamed, rushing to protect the twins. The housekeeper appeared seconds later, panting, "Oh my goodness! Girls, come with me now!" While Elizabeth led the terrified children out, William kept James pinned, his voice quiet and intense. "It's over, James. No more vengeance, no more games. It's time to face reality." Sarah knelt beside them, tears streaming down her face. "James, please, let it go. For me, for whatever's left of our family." Finally broken, James began to sob. "I'm so sorry," he muttered over and over. "I'm so sorry." Minutes later, the police arrived to take James into custody. As the sirens faded into the distance, William, Sarah, and Elizabeth gathered in the office, a heavy silence settling over them. "What happens now?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. William exhaled deeply, running a hand over his tired face. "Now, we rebuild. All of us," Elizabeth nodded gravely. "The girls will need a lot of support and explanations." "Yes," William agreed, looking at Sarah. "We all will." Sarah met William's gaze, years of lies and manipulation replaced by a new understanding. "I want to do the right thing, William. For you, for the girls, for all of us." William reached out, taking her hand gently. "We'll do it together, one day at a time." As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows across the office, the three of them remained in silence, contemplating the uncertain future ahead. The immediate battle was over, but the war for redemption, forgiveness, and reconstruction was only just beginning. William Parker, the man who had built an empire, now faced his greatest challenge, rebuilding not just his company, but his family and his faith in humanity. And Sarah, freed from James's manipulations but burdened by her own actions, knew that the path ahead would be difficult. But for the first time in years, she could see a glimmer of hope on the horizon. The confrontation had ended, but the journey of healing had only begun. Goldstein and Associates law firm was bustling with activity on that sunny morning. In the heart of the storm, a conference room held a tense group: William Parker, Sarah, their respective lawyers, and a handcuffed James Donovan flanked by two officers of the court. "Gentlemen, let's recap," began Dr. Goldstein, the senior attorney presiding over the meeting. "Mr. Donovan, are you willing to confess your participation in the attempted sabotage of Parker Construction and your revenge plan against Mr. Parker?" James, is looking much older than he was, nodded slowly. "Yes," he said, his voice rough. "I confess." William watched his former partner with a mixture of pity and disappointment. "James, why didn't you come to me? Why set up this entire elaborate scheme?" James lifted his eyes to meet William's for the first time. "Because you wouldn't have believed me. Not after what happened with the Horizon project, Dr. Goldstein interjected. Yes, the infamous Horizon project, Mr. Parker. You're now aware of the true circumstances behind Mr. Donovan's actions at that time." William nodded gravely. "Yes." James explained about the contaminated land and his attempt to fix the problem without my knowledge. "And yet," the lawyer continued, "you accused him of fraud and kicked him out of the company." "I made a mistake," William admitted, guilt evident in his voice. I didn't give James a chance to fully explain. I acted on partial evidence and rumors. Sarah, who had remained silent until then, spoke up. But that doesn't justify years of manipulation or trying to destroy William's life and company. James lowered his head, shame etched in his posture. "I know. I lost control, the anger, the resentment, it consumed me." "Doctor." Goldstein flipped through some documents on the table. "Mr. Donovan, you understand that your confession, while it may lead to a reduced sentence, still involves serious legal consequences." James nodded. "Yes, I'm aware, and I'm prepared to face them." William leaned forward, his expression grave. "James, I want you to know that despite everything, I understand why you did what you did. I don't condone your actions, but I understand the pain that drove them." Sarah glanced at William, surprised by his compassion. Then she turned to her brother. "James, for years you made me believe William was the villain in this story. You manipulated my emotions, my loyalty to our family." "I know, Sarah," James replied, tears in his eyes, "and I'm sorry, more than I can ever say." Dr. Goldstein cleared his throat, regaining everyone's attention. "Well, given Mr. Donovan's testimony and the evidence gathered, I propose the following agreement. Mr. Donovan will plead guilty to attempted extortion and conspiracy, accepting a reduced sentence in exchange for full cooperation. Mr. Parker, in turn, agrees not to press additional charges." William and James exchanged a long look before both nodded in agreement. "Excellent," the lawyer concluded. "Now regarding Mrs. Parker." Sarah straightened in her chair, tense. "Given her less active role in the conspiracy and her eventual cooperation, we're proposing probation and community service, provided she agrees to testify if necessary against any other individuals involved in the scheme." Sarah let out a breath of relief, tears springing to her eyes. "I accept," she said softly. As the lawyers finalized details of the agreement, William reflected on the complexity of the situation. Years of misunderstandings, wounded pride, and failed communication had led to this moment. So many lives affected, so many relationships broken. After the meeting, while James was taken back into custody, William and Sarah remained in the conference room, the silence heavy between them. "What do we do now?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. William sighed deeply. "Now we face the hardest part, explaining all of this to the girls." Back at the Parker mansion, Elizabeth waited anxiously with Emma and Olivia. The twins, sitting quietly on the sofa, looked small and vulnerable, a painful reminder of the innocence shattered by recent events. William and Sarah entered, sharing a look of understanding before sitting in front of the girls. "Emma, Olivia," William began gently, "Mommy and I need to talk to you about some very important and complicated things." The twins looked at their parents, big eyes full of unspoken questions. Sarah spoke, her voice trembling yet determined. "Remember when we talked about how adults sometimes make mistakes? Well, I made some very big mistakes." "Are you leaving?" Olivia asked, her voice small and afraid. Sarah felt her heart clench. "No, sweetie, I'm not going anywhere, but some things will be different for a while," William continued. "Uncle James, he did some bad things. He was angry and hurt, and that led him to make the wrong choices." "Did he hurt people?" Emma asked, surprising her parents with her insight. William nodded gravely. "Yes, in a way. Not physically, but he hurt people's feelings and their trust." Sarah took a deep breath before continuing. "And I helped Uncle James at first. I was angry and confused too. But now I know I was wrong. The twins processed the information in silence for a few moments. "Are you getting a divorce?" Olivia finally asked, tears in her eyes. William and Sarah exchanged a surprised look. "No, sweetheart," William replied. "Mommy and I said we're working together to fix things. It'll take time, but we're committed to making it work." Sarah opened her arms, and the twins ran to her for a tight hug. "We love you both more than anything," she whispered, "and we promise we'll always be honest with you from now on." As the family embraced, Elizabeth watched from the door, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but hope lingered. The truth, however painful, was finally out in the open. That night, after putting the girls to bed, William and Sarah found themselves on the balcony, gazing at the city lights below. "We made it through the day," Sarah said quietly. William nodded, gently taking her hand. "One day at a time, right?" Sarah smiled, a small but genuine smile. "One day at a time." As night settled in, the Parker mansion seemed to exhale a collective sigh of relief. The revelations had been laid bare, the consequences were being faced. And though the future remained uncertain, there was a sense that perhaps, with honesty, forgiveness, and a great deal of hard work, this family might not just survive, but thrive. The chapter of revenge and lies had ended. Now, the chapter of healing and rebuilding began. The first rays of sun streamed through the windows of the Parker mansion, heralding a new day filled with possibilities and challenges. William, already dressed for work, stood on his balcony sipping a steaming cup of coffee. The weight of the past few months still pressed on his shoulders, but there was a renewed determination in his eyes. Sarah appeared beside him, hesitant. "Good morning," she said softly. William turned, offering a small smile. "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" "As well as can be expected," Sarah replied, her tired eyes reflecting restless nights. "The girls?" "Still asleep. Elizabeth promised to wake them for breakfast." A comfortable silence stretched between them, both contemplating the path ahead. "William," Sarah began, her voice trembling slightly, "I want you to know I'm committed to making things right. With you, with the girls, with everything." William nodded, meeting her gaze. "I know, Sarah, and I appreciate that. It'll take time, but I believe we can rebuild something good here." The sound of small footsteps interrupted their conversation. Emma and Olivia appeared, still in their pajamas, sleepy yet curious. "Good morning, princesses," William smiled, bending to hug them. Sarah knelt beside them, uncertain. Can I hug you too?" The twins exchanged a look before Olivia stepped forward, allowing Sarah to embrace her. Emma soon followed, and for a moment, the Parker family united in a hug that symbolized hope and a fresh start. After breakfast, William was getting ready to leave when Sarah approached him. "May I come with you today, to the company?" William looked surprised but nodded. "Sure. I think it would be good for you to see the changes we've implemented." At Parker Construction, the atmosphere was one of renewal. Employees greeted William with renewed respect, and curious glances followed Sarah as she walked beside him. In the main conference room, a cybersecurity team presented the new protective measures. "As you can see, Mr. Parker," the team leader explained, "we've implemented multi-factor authentication at all levels. We also have strict protocols for accessing sensitive information." William nodded, satisfied. "Excellent. What about physical security?" "We've reinforced access control at all facilities. Each employee now has a unique ID badge with a chip." Sarah watched attentively, impressed by the level of detail and caution. "It's amazing to see how you're adapting," she whispered to William. He gave a slight smile. "We learned the hard way, but we're determined not to repeat the same mistakes." After the meeting, William guided Sarah around the office, introducing her to key employees and explaining the organizational changes. "We now have a more robust system of checks and balances," he explained. "No major decision is made without multiple approvals. It protects us not only from external threats, but from internal judgment errors." Sarah nodded, understanding the implication. "Like what happened with James," she said softly. "Exactly," William agreed. "That situation taught us the importance of open communication and trust, but also verification and balance. Back at the mansion, Elizabeth was waiting with the twins, who were eager to share about their day at school. "Mommy, Daddy!" Emma exclaimed. "Today in class we talked about different families." Sarah knelt, interested. "Really? What did you learn?" Olivia cut in. "We learned that some families have two dads, some have two mums, some have only one parent. And some families go through changes," Emma added, glancing hesitantly between William and Sarah. William joined them on the floor. "That's true, princesses. Every family is unique and special in its own way. And sometimes, families face challenges and have to adapt." Sarah took the girls' hands gently. "What matters most is that no matter what happens, the love we feel for each other never changes." The twins smiled, looking relieved. "Can we watch a movie together tonight?" Olivia asked hopefully. "Of course," William replied, sharing a warm look with Sarah. That night, as the family gathered on the couch to watch a movie, there was a palpable feeling of progress. The wounds remained, but they were beginning to heal. Later, after tucking the twins into bed, William and Sarah found themselves back on the balcony, reflecting on the day. "You did great today," William remarked. "I'm with the girls at the company. I'm impressed by your commitment." Sarah smiled softly. "Thank you. I know I have a long way to go to regain everyone's trust, but I'm determined to make it happen." "You know," William mused, "this whole situation made me realize something important. Trust is like a building. It takes time to construct. It can be destroyed in an instant, but with the right foundation, it can be rebuilt even stronger than before." Sarah nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. "And the truth is the most important foundation of all, why, isn't it?" "Exactly," William agreed, gently taking her hand. "Without truth, there's no base for trust or forgiveness." They stood in silence for a moment, gazing at the stars. "William," Sarah finally said, "I promise to always be honest with you from now on. No secrets, no manipulations, only the truth, no matter how hard it is." William squeezed her hand in response. "That's all I ask. And I promise the same to you." As the night wore on, the Parker mansion seemed to breathe a collective sigh of relief. The wounds were still there, the scars still forming, but there was an undeniable sense of progress. The Parker family was far from perfect, but they were united in their commitment to rebuild what had been broken. With each passing day, each honest conversation, each moment of shared vulnerability, they were paving the way for a brighter future. And so, as the distant city lights twinkled, William and Sarah remained side by side on the balcony, living proof that, with hard work, honesty, and love, even the most damaged structures can be rebuilt, sometimes emerging stronger than ever before. The chapter of rebuilding had only just begun, but for the first time in a long time, the future felt full of possibilities and hope.